Hey, welcome back for another episode of the Science of the Mind comedy TV show. And I used to actually have a fantasy of being a clinical psychologist during the day and being a stand-up comic in the night, just going around places and doing stand-up comedy shows. And that was something I used to really enjoy thinking about, and I was quite into doing stand-up comedy. Like I remember doing some stand-up comedy for some of my best friends in the past, and I'd written it out and come up with a few different skits and things like that. And I was really enjoying that at the time. I'm pretty sure I've still got the script for that somewhere on one of the computers. I should bring it out and do a video on the channel here, just sharing some of my comedian stuff with you. But yeah. So I really enjoyed that. But what I was actually wanting to share with you all today is just about one of my dearest best friends who hangs out with me and like one on one as well as um, you know as a group, like among a group of best friends. And they were telling me that they've started eating vegan 3 days a week. It's something I've really been encouraging is like veganism. So I was telling them, oh, I've been meaning to do another non-violent vegan NVV culture video on the YouTube channel for ages now. So you've just inspired me. So the next video that I do is going to be on NVV, non-violent veganism, once again, as well as non-violent voicing. I since the last time I did a video on NVV culture, I think it was just non-violent veganism, but I expanded it since then to non-violent voicing, which is just the communication strategy, the approach of just being forgiving and soft in our communication and not getting angry with each other. And I was talking to some of my best friends a while ago, saying how one of our best friends, one of our family best friends, was telling us ages ago, last year, how there's been some research they were letting us know that has predicted that within the next 20 years, must be by around 2040, the research is predicting that there'll be 5 billion vegans on the planet. And from my little bit of research that I did, I didn't actually look up that bit of research, but I just was a bit curious about what the global population, what would be the whole population of the planet by that stage, around 2040. And I think it came up with something like 9 point something billion people. So according to those calculations, more than half of the people on the planet will be vegan, eating vegan by then. And I suppose I came up with this non-violent veganism, this way of being non-violently vegan, because there's been an association between being vegan and being militant about it. So I figured I'd bring out a culture that is all about being gently vegan. And so my best friend was letting me know that they're trying to eat vegan 3 days a week. And this is a really nice non-violent way of transitioning. Another one of my best friends was telling me that they were trying to be vegan as well. And they were just telling me earlier this week how they've been slipping up with it. And I just said to them, no worries, that's really non-violent veganism. I was just saying, you'll get back onto it, at the right time. You'll go vegan and you'll go fully vegan. It's a good start that you've made. So there's a gentleness and a softness there. And so I was really encouraging my best friend who was telling me they're doing 3 days vegan at the moment, because it's just a gentle, gradual, graduated change. And that's the way that we can do things in a sustainable way, is when we make little changes, just bit by bit, baby steps, as we say. And I'm so proud of my best friends who are making these positive changes, because what I learned I think it was late last year. I learned through a flyer that was circulating information about veganism that animal agriculture, like for the leather industries and the meat industries, it was saying on the flyer that it's responsible for about 80% of the environmental troubles and climate change stuff that's going on around the world at the moment. So it's a really huge contributor. So when we can free ourselves from any sort of involvement in those animal industries, it's a beautiful gift not only to be kind to the animals, to be a lot kinder to the animals and a lot kinder on our bodies because it can be a lot healthier for us, but being a lot more compassionate to the environment and the whole of Mother Nature, the whole planet, to preserve what we have, the beautiful abundance that we have, and to be frugal and really take good care of our own bodies and minds and other people's, and all of humanity's and the animals. And if we go organic, which is what I do, then we're not even participating in stuff that even hurts insects and things. So we really live up to that saying that this person wouldn't hurt a fly, because we really wouldn't, really wouldn't hurt even a mosquito kind of thing. Because I just figure they're all living their own lives and their life is probably just like us. That's something that I've really appreciated in recent years, has been the increasing emotional intelligence of movies and things, giving movies from a perspective of little insects and things, like the movie Ants and stuff like that, that shows them like that humanizes rather than dehumanizing and making victims out of other living beings. It actually humanizes the ants and gives them personalities and things, which is totally what I believe would be the truth of what's going on with animals and insects. Can definitely see that, even with cockroaches. Like when I've caught a cockroach in the past, you see such different personalities in the cockroaches. Some of them are really scared, other ones seem to be aggressive, other ones seem to freeze. It's like the whole variety of fight, flight, and freeze and fawn, the different stress responses. I remember one of them was just really relaxed. It didn't seem to mind about the fact that I was catching it. It was just cruising along, just doing its own thing, just barely seemed to notice. So that's a bit like us human beings, isn't it? So if we can come to be like that, be really cruisy and relaxed, then it'd be a great benefit to us to get out of that stress, that culture of just stress and living in fear and stress and anxiety, which just burns so much energy and exhausts us and takes so much energy and performance out of what we could potentially do, like all the different good things that we could contribute towards in life. And non-violent voicing, non-violent veganism, these are things that are really close to my heart. The non-violent veganism, it's like I've explained to my best friends and anybody who I've talked to about it. It's a way of doing it, sort of realizing why we're doing it. That there's a principle there that we're not going to get involved in stuff that's harmful in life. That that's I suppose a principle of the whole science of the mind training, which is that we're trying to get involved in stuff that's helpful and only stuff that's helpful. On the blog I was talking about the other day, I was talking about the science of the mind as being a wildlife sanctuary, as in a sanctuary, a refuge, a shelter, a halfway house, a community, like a gated community, and the gate that is closing out like any sort of harmfulness or badness. And we keep inside, we keep all these good things, or everything that's helpful, everything that helps us and helps other people. And we think of things as being a team. We think from a team perspective, because so much of the culture that we're trying to keep outside of the gates of this wonderful community of people who are into the science of the mind, and outside of our own internal community, which is what the stuff that we're trying to keep out of our own heart, our own mind, is a lot of that culture of just every man for themselves. Everyone is just out to look after themselves kind of thing. And we're trying to get out of that sort of mentality and become more of a team mentality, that all of us human beings are a team, and even the animals and the environment, where we can all work together. Like I was saying to one of my best friends, that I would want them to work with me on the science of the mind. And straight away they looked at me and said to me, I would definitely work for you, David. And I said, work with me, not for me. And there's no hierarchy here. Like, I don't want anybody working for me. I'm not a slave driver. I want people working with me as a team of equals, because I'm totally into fairness and transparency and democracy and equality here. And this is what I'm bringing to the science of the mind. And why do I bring that to the science of the mind? Because it is the science of our true hearts. That's what actually uplifts us and energizes us. So with the NVV culture, I've really been encouraging anybody and everybody to non-violently. We don't need to be militant about it. We don't need to push it on other people, but just whatever we can, gently, softly, try to reduce the amount of meat consumption or any sort of animal products, any leathers. I think one of my best friends was telling me that 2 billion animals die each year as a part of the leather industries, just the leather industries alone. So anything we can do to opt out of that sort of culture and to opt in to the science of the mind sort of culture, the non-violent veganism, the NVV culture of non-violently voicing. So I've just been explaining these things, and when I've been talking about the veganism to different people, a couple of my best friends in the last year or two have told me how when they eat meat, they actually feel more aggressive. They feel aggressive, and so I figured, yeah, this sounds like something that at least a couple of my best friends have noticed and have been experiencing. And so maybe it's something that affects a lot more of us than what we realize, is that maybe we'd be less aggressive when we eat less meat. It's an interesting experiment. It's an interesting idea, interesting concept to experiment around with and just investigate, try to find out, do I feel better when I eat less meat? Do I feel better about myself as a human being when I'm less involved with anything that's exploiting any sort of animals or harming any animals or even insects? And definitely for me, I can totally see that I've got far less aggressive and far happier since I've removed myself out of any sort of culture that has anything to do with any sort of process that has anything to do with anything that could even potentially hurt animals. So it's just a really interesting experiment that I suggest everybody to try. And I've explained to my best friends as well that, with the non-violence, it means that we don't need to be perfect with it. Like I went out to give a talk to some other best friends, a different group from the support group that I run, and during that they handed around some chocolate, and I didn't notice that it was dairy milk chocolate. Like it was it had cow's milk in it, and I think at least one of my best friends there noticed, and I just said, we don't need to be perfect with non-violent veganism. If it's 95% vegan or 99% vegan, then that's more than good enough. Like an example of another one of my dearest best friends who brought me a cake for my last birthday. They gave me this beautiful cake, and it was filled with all sorts of cream, and in the middle of eating it and saying me happy birthday and everything, they said to me, oh, I know you're vegan, aren't you? And I said, yeah, don't worry about it. I'm never going to turn down something like a bit of cream cake that someone's brought for my birthday. I'm always going to eat it. It's non-violent. It doesn't need to be perfect. So, and I was explaining to one of my best friends, but if someone came up and put a bit of steak in front of me or like a piece of fish in front of me, then I wouldn't make an exception. But if it's something that has trace amounts of milk or a bit of cream in it, I'm going to be willing to compromise and just accommodate people just so that they can have the chance to give to me and I can have the chance to receive from them. And we can enjoy that beautiful process of the science of our true hearts, of just generosity and giving and receiving. So this is how the non-violent veganism works. My best friend who's doing a few days a week, I really celebrate that. And I can see how they're on a journey, on a process that's going to take them to being vegan, 95, 99% of the time, like me, non-violent. That it doesn't have to be perfect, but we do it about the principle that we won't get involved with anything that hurts any animals or insects or anything. And and there's a little bit of leeway, a bit of flexibility with that to allow for the imperfections that are just a part of life, that we're never going to have a perfect life. It's never going to be a perfect world, but we can just make it a whole lot better than what it is. It doesn't need to be anywhere near as troubled as what it is, and people don't need to be, hurting as much as they have been, and getting, animals getting harmed, and the environment, the climate. So this is the non-violent veganism that I've been encouraging everybody to get into, and my best friend who's been eating a few days a week was actually explaining something really lovely to me, which I think they started telling to their best friends, which is that they said to me, "There's never been a better time to go vegan. There's more vegan options than ever in the in the food places, in the markets, all different places, more and more different food and dietary um, ways of eating, like gluten free and all different styles of eating. The world is embracing all these different ways, and it's becoming a much more open-minded and open-hearted culture that's developing in our world. So human beings definitely are updating their ways and upgrading and becoming a lot more compassionate and a lot more wise in what we're doing. So my best friend is really wise, really compassionate, such a kind person, telling me these positive, inspirational, uplifting, motivational messages about veganism, that it's never been easier, it's never been better. There's more variety, there's more to choose from, there's more places to get vegan food from. It's just really easy. There's more vegan recipes to cook from and to make delicious food. So there's all these beautiful things that are happening, and yeah, that I'm just really uplifted and by my best friend telling me that they're doing these good things, which is a great part of the science of the mind. With the science of the mind, we've got a culture here where we're actually allowed to celebrate the good things, we're actually allowed to talk about the good things, and we're not encouraged, we're actually discouraged from cutting anybody down about anything good that they're doing. If they're doing anything that's more fair, more ethical, anything good in this world at all, like anything helpful, if we talk about it, it doesn't grow a bigger ego. Ego grows from low self-esteem, from lack of goodness, lack of experience of kindness, lack of thinking about and talking about and doing goodness. So doing good things, being ethical, being virtuous and moral in the world, it melts away our egos and just creates more of a team environment, and uplifts our happiness and our energy, because happiness is just energy in the mind, and just life starts getting brighter and happier and more colourful and a lot more friendly. So this is the non-violent vegan culture that I'm trying to contribute to the world and grow in the world and grow in each one of our hearts. And I really celebrate that it's growing in some of my best friends' minds and lives and in our world already. And it's non-violent, it's not forceful, it's not pushy, it's not demanding. It's just saying, if you can do a bit better with it, if you can eat a little bit less meat, then go for it. If you can buy a little bit less animal products, then go for that. But we don't need to be perfect. It's a very encouraging, supportive sort of culture, and that's the whole science of the mind. It's focused on positive things, growing the positive things, because we've known for years, for decades in psychology, that positive strategies work way better. And that's how the non-violent voicing works as well, is like putting a lot of positive things in, putting a lot of praise and goodness and recognitions to the people that we're talking to about the fact that they're learning, about the fact that they're improving, recognizing all the good things, recognizing the progress, and supporting and encouraging, people, so that they don't need to live in fear and have this culture of stress that, they're worried about falling short, that they're not good enough, that they're going to fail. There can be no failing with the culture, with the science of the mind culture that I'm putting out there, because as soon as you try and you start thinking the good things, it's all just focused on good things. Anything bad, we just take it for granted. We know that people have had their limitations. We know that humanity has had a lot of hard times in the past, and that we're all recovering from this all over the planet. People are trying to recover. And it's because of those hardships that the symptoms come. It's actually really simple. A lot of the time there's a really complex culture that's put out there in the world, even about mental illness. Like, there's a lot of that culture, even within the field, the mental health field, of just making things so complex. But in truth, it's really simple with the science of the mind. I'm bringing out a therapy, a healing approach, a method in psychology that is within the mental health field, that is just keeping it so simple. It's just all about kindness, focusing on the good things. And we've known for decades that this works. The only reason why people do bad stuff or get involved in bad stuff is because that illness of badness has been going around in the world. There just has been a lot of impoverishment, a lot of people living in poverty of not enough good stuff that they've had in their life, not enough kindness. So that's the only thing that's not been enough, that's not been good enough, is just the adversity, the impoverishment, the disadvantage that people have been living their lives in, living a life of feeling like they're lacking in things instead of having an abundance. But kindness is a thing, care is a thing that we can just share unlimited, and we only grow from sharing it, and the more people that soak it in, the better. So nonviolent voicing is just taking the bad stuff for granted, overlooking it, not going to criticize people, not going to try to control them, but just uplift them by finding the good things in them and encouraging them, recognizing, giving them a recognition, and just saying how much we appreciate that good thing that they're doing. And that energizes people and encourages them to repeat that good thing that they're doing, and motivates them to do it more and more and more, and build it up into a habit. So that's the power of focusing on the good things and finding the good things, thinking good thoughts, speaking good words, and doing all these good things. It's a culture that just grows and grows and grows in us, and just empowers us to be more healthy, more happy, more generous, more understanding towards our brothers and sisters in this world, and more forgiving. There's been a beautiful example of another of my best friends has just told this excellent story, incredible uplifting story about how they've actually had something stolen from them, and a bit of money stolen from them, and someone actually pointed out who the person was who'd stolen this stuff from them, and they didn't go up and punish the person. They didn't go up and threaten, say that they're going to call the police or anything like this. They just went up and non-violently voiced. They just explained to the person that they really needed that money. They really needed, their possessions, and just really shared a lot of the science of the mind with them. Just a lot of forgiveness, a lot of kindness, no threats, no force, no intimidation, but just reasoning, just explaining things to our brothers and sisters. And after chatting to, their best friend who'd stolen from them 10 minutes prior, after 10 minutes of giving them a dose of the science of the mind, of the wonderful understanding that was just pouring out from my best friend's heart and from their words, their mouth, from the wonderful understandings and the loving care that they showed to their brother or sister in this world, who I don't actually know the gender of the person who stole from them, but they're showing it to our brothers and sisters. My best friend just showed so much generosity of forgiveness, generosity of time with this person who'd just stolen from them, and didn't think of them as being a thief, because there is no thief. There's only our, brothers and sisters, our best friends in this world. Someone who's, for whatever reason, whether it's an illness in their mind that they feel the need to steal, for some reason, or whether they're just so poor that they feel like they have to steal. They're stuck, for the opportunity to have some material comforts. Whatever the reason, my best friend just forgave them and just explained things to them. And after 10 minutes, their best friend really realized that they were a best friend and handed them back their possessions along with all the money. And my best friend was so smart, they actually gave them $10, 10 Australian dollars, as a reward for the honesty. They'd actually offered the person, that if they gave back, their $80 along with their possession, that they would actually reward them. That they explained to them that they didn't need to steal from them. That my best friend would happily give to them if they only asked. Isn't that beautiful? And so they shared this wonderful science. So yeah, so my best friends and all of us involved in the science of the mind are just doing such lovely things and uplifting people to realize that we don't need to get into any negative strategies. We don't need to punish each other. We can actually just talk. We don't need to shout. We can just explain things. And that when we actually explain things and non-violently voice and be really positive and encouraging to people and really understanding, really warm. My best friends are so warm. My best friend who's been trying to be a vegan but has gone a bit off track recently is just such a warm-hearted person. My best friend who's eating vegan 3 days a week is so warm. And my best friend who's got their $80 back and then given $10 as a reward to the person for giving, instead of taking. So my best friend actually helped the person go from taking 10 minutes before to actually giving. Like, that's such an incredible achievement. That sort of thing is so inspirational to me. It's such a lovely story. My best friend is just so warm, just such a warm person, so positive, so forgiving. So these are our best friends, and this is the culture that I'm encouraging, and just hoping that more and more people opt into this culture, because it's so much nicer and it's so much more functional and healthy and happy for everybody. So this is NVV expanded, NVV part 2, how it all works. It's non-violent, it's soft, it's friendly, it's fun. It's like a wildlife sanctuary inside here, inside this gated community. There are no real gates to our community. It's completely open-hearted. Anybody can join. All that we ask is that we reduce and leave behind anything and everything, that bad stuff that we've been doing, whether it's alcohol or drugs or any sort of cheating, lying, stealing, anything like that, anything harmful at all that is a part of hurting or killing any sort of living beings. We just kindly ask that anybody who opts into this culture leaves any of that sort of bad stuff by the gates. That can stay outside of our wildlife sanctuary, and inside the sanctuary it becomes really safe, really forgiving culture with so much care, and we have so much fun inside of that sanctuary. And I was saying how it's a wildlife sanctuary because life can be pretty wild, and so this is a sanctuary in our hearts that just grows in our minds and grows in our worlds. And it's a wildlife sanctuary. It's a sanctuary where we can escape from the wild things in life, the things that go wrong, and just take comfort and soothe ourselves and feel so much better as we non-violently voice towards ourselves, and we become a non-violent vegan towards ourselves. We're not going to eat ourselves up. We're not going to consume ourselves with all that self-punishment and self-torture type of stuff in our attitudes, in the way that we think about ourselves and speak about ourselves and do things towards ourselves. No, we're going to be non-violent towards ourselves, non-violently voicing things, non-violently vegan towards ourselves, not going to be harmful and um, you know, eat chunks out of our self-esteem and this sort of thing. So it's NVV culture. I really encourage everybody to enjoy it, get into it, and feel so much better. Like I tell my best friends, since I turned vegan, the food has just tasted so much more delicious. I think it must just be because my mind is so happy, but the food just tastes so lovely, and it's just really simple food. It's so simple to cook it. So there's so many advantages to this. Just like so many things, just like how video phased out and went to DVD, and just like uh, so many different things that have upgraded over time, like the computers in the 70s, versus the computers of today. If you had an option of which computer you'd use, you know, probably most people would choose the more functional, modern computer. So this is just an upgraded culture. It just works so much more functionally, so much more effectively. NVV, get into it, spread it, and help make people happy. And I really celebrate my best friend being so forgiving and kind to the person who'd stolen from them, being so compassionate. And I reckon that would have changed that wonderful person's life. So I'm just so uplifted by that, and so happy for my best friend, and so happy for our best friend who stole from them, that they could hang out with my best friend and get a dose of that. Another of my best friends was telling me that dose stands for D for dopamine, O for oxytocin, S for serotonin, and E for endorphins. All the nice chemicals, the good chemicals that make us feel good. Get a dose into you of the science of the mind, these mind sciences, how your mind really works, how our heart works, what works, all these different habits and processes we can put into our mind and train and grow that just make us a happy person, make our mind a really pleasant, non-violent, friendly, fun place to be. So enjoy your days, and I'll look forward to sharing more NVV culture with you again at the right time.